The manager told me, I'll take credit for this. A female employee who had just returned from a $5 million business negotiation looked pale as she confessed this to me. You came back without saying anything. You've worked so hard for this. Actually, this isn't the first time. In the final stages of several big deals, the manager has stepped in and taken over. Why haven't you spoken up? I'm a single mom working reduced hours. I sometimes have to take sudden time off. If I defy the manager, it would be hard to stay at the company. Her words made me remember the sparkle in her eyes when she said she loved this job. I felt my patience snap. This is unacceptable, I muttered as I pulled out my smartphone. I decided to confront this injustice against such a talented individual. My name is Steve Moore, 40 years old. I had worked for overseas companies for many years, but a month ago I joined this toy manufacturer, Fun Toy. Fun Toy is a mid-sized company with 35 years in business, known for its high-quality educational toys. While it hasn't had any blockbuster hits, it has produced many beloved toys. Recently, there's been an increase in negotiations with international companies, and we're starting to expand our market. As I struggled with the document I was submitting, Barbara, who sat next to me, kindly spoke up. Barbara joined the company 3 years ago and is incredibly supportive. From client information to expense reports, she always answers my questions without annoyance and even offers advice. As a single mom working reduced hours, she's developed an efficient way of handling tasks. When I handed her the document, Barbara patiently explained how to complete it. So you check this box here and fill in this section. I see. Got it. You're a quick learner, Steve. Feel free to ask anytime. Thank you. I expressed my gratitude. Barbara responded with a warm smile, and her smile made me smile back naturally. Right after that, a loud yell shattered the peaceful atmosphere. What the hell are you planning to do with this kind of content? The voice belonged to Chris, the sales manager. He has spent his entire career in sales and is a dynamic person who still actively goes out on sales calls. His sales performance is always at the top, and perhaps because of that, he's very strict about work. From my perspective, everyone in this sales department is highly capable and has excellent character. I've never had a bad experience working with them and have never heard any complaints from clients. I often wonder why he gets so angry, but I assume his passion for work makes him strict even about the smallest mistakes. The manager is being tough today, too. Yes, he is, Barbara nodded, averting her eyes and returning to her tasks. The next day, as I was heading back to my desk, the manager's angry voice echoed again. Seriously, why didn't you double-check this? When I looked over, Barbara was standing in front of the manager's desk. I'm sorry. What do you think this negotiation is? This isn't the kind of deal we hand over to someone who's only half committed. I frowned instinctively at Chris's overbearing tone. From what I've seen over the past month, Barbara is an outstanding professional who handles everything with integrity. How could he call her half-committed? We're keeping someone on reduced hours in the sales department. Don't you think you owe us a little loyalty? I'm truly sorry. For crying out loud, every time something comes up, it's about your kid getting sick or something else. You need to be more aware of how much you're disrupting work. We're not a charity keeping useless people around. Get it together. After berating Barbara, Chris spat out his final words and stormed out. Barbara lowered her head as she returned to her desk, carefully placing the documents back in the file. I noticed her unusually downcast demeanor, but with a meeting coming up, I didn't get the chance to check on her. After finishing my morning tasks, I returned to my desk and called out to Barbara, who was opening her lunchbox next to me, still looking upset. Chris really laid into you earlier. Are you okay? You saw that. Barbara averted her gaze before giving a modest smile. I'm fine. There was a typo in the presentation materials for the next negotiation, and the manager was just pointing it out. Wait, he yelled at you like that over a typo. I couldn't hide my surprise at how trivial the reason was. I couldn't believe he needed to shout over a single typo in a document that wasn't even urgent. Since it's an important presentation for a big negotiation, I think the manager just got a bit strict. You don't have to take everything the manager says to heart, I told her. It's not just about keeping you on despite your reduced hours. It's because they really want you here, even if it's just part-time. Steve, from what I've seen, you're exceptional. I think they recognize your value, which is why they're willing to accommodate your reduced hours in the sales department. You should be proud of your work. Thank you for the encouragement. I feel a bit better now, Barbara said, turning to me with a smile. Actually, it looks like we might secure a contract with Avena in the next negotiation. That's amazing. Avena is a major international toy retailer with stores all over the world. It's a luxury toy store favored by celebrities worldwide. If we secure this contract, it could generate over $5 million in annual sales. This is a project I've been working on for a long time. I'm so happy it's finally coming together. Landing a deal with them is incredible. Barbara, you're truly outstanding. Oh, it's not like that. There were a lot of challenges to get this far. Even so, you're on the verge of closing the deal. You should be proud of yourself. Thank you. Barbara's proud smile was absolutely radiant. But isn't it tough managing reduced hours while taking care of your child? I have to do my best for my child. Besides, I love this job, Barbara said, her eyes sparkling as she thought about how kids will react when they pick up the products or how parents feel when they choose them. Figuring out how to make that experience the best it can be, that makes it really enjoyable for me, so it's not a burden. I noticed a fleeting shadow cross her face. If anything comes up, I'm here to talk. I'm still learning from you most of the time. No, I'm glad I can rely on you, Steve, with all your international experience, Barbara said with her usual gentle smile. A week later, the day of Barbara's contract signing with Avena finally arrived. So today's the big day, right? Yes, Barbara smiled up at me brightly. Hey, Barbara, just as I was about to wish her good luck, Chris's voice interrupted. Yes, manager, today is the day of the Avena contract. Right, it's a major deal with a big company. I don't feel comfortable leaving it entirely to you, so I'm coming along. Ah, but what's the problem with that? The manager glared at Barbara, daring her to protest. What if you get a call in the middle of the negotiation to pick up your kid? If you're alone, you'll leave a gap, won't you? Are you going to blow a $5 million deal? And what if the negotiation drags on past your work hours? You'll end up inconveniencing everyone. In that case, I'll step in. I couldn't stay silent any longer after hearing the manager's harsh words. Barbara had put everything together meticulously, so she should be able to handle any foreseeable situations. Steve, are you trying to cut in on this? That's not my intention. I just think someone familiar with handling international clients would be better equipped to adapt if anything unexpected happens. So you're saying I can't handle international clients? Is that it? That's not what I meant. Then keep your nose out of it. You're still a rookie in our sales department. Chris snapped at me before turning back to Barbara. Do you think Steve would be better? No, I feel more secure with you coming along, Barbara responded to the manager, who nodded as if to say, I thought so. Let's go, Barbara. Yes, Barbara hurried after the manager, who strode out confidently. Why is the manager taking the lead? I found myself voicing my thoughts. I had been told that this contract was Barbara's work, so I wondered why the manager, even with his rank, needed to insert himself into it. But then again, I thought the credit would still go to Barbara, and with the top-performing sales manager, Chris, there, things should be fine no matter what. However, 30 minutes later, only Barbara returned, looking utterly drained. Barbara, isn't it a bit early for the contract to be done? I asked in surprise. The pale-faced Barbara slowly looked up at me. The manager, she replied in a trembling voice, said he'd take all the credit. What? I took a taxi with the manager to the Avena branch. On the way, he asked to see the final presentation materials, so I handed them over. When we arrived, he told me I could just go back. When I asked what he meant, he said he'd take all the credit. Right? Barbara nodded at my words. And you just came back without saying anything. You worked so hard to secure this contract. Actually, this isn't the first time. What? This isn't the first time. There have been several other times when he stepped in at the final stage of major deals. Why haven't you reported this? I'm a single mom working reduced hours. That doesn't matter. Barbara, you've been delivering results. But sometimes I need to take sudden leave and I already work fewer hours, so people don't always see me in a good light. If I go against the manager, I'll make things even harder for myself at the company. Her words brought back the image of her bright eyes full of passion for this job, and I felt my patience snap. This is unacceptable, I muttered, pulling out my phone and tapping on one of my contacts. It's me, yeah, that's right. I explained the situation to the person on the other end of the call and entrusted them with handling it. Hearing their confidant, "Leave it to me," I ended the call and smiled at the bewildered Barbara. It's all taken care of, Steve. You'll see soon enough. As I continued making calls, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. Chris burst in, yelling at Barbara. The $5 million deal just got canceled. You must have messed something up. I didn't do anything. Don't lie. Just as the manager was about to charge at Barbara, I stepped in between them. I'm the one who called off the negotiation. What did you just say? For a moment, Chris was stunned by my words, but as soon as he understood, his face turned bright red. What gives you the right to do that? And what gives you the right to steal your subordinates' achievements? I replied calmly, causing him to hesitate and swallow his words. I hear this isn't the first time you've taken credit for Barbara's work, so what gives you the right to do that? I don't care if you're some big shot who's been overseas. You're just a stuck-up jerk. Chris shouted, grabbing me by the collar. I've hated that smug, I know all about the world, look on your face from the start. That's not my intention. Well, that's how it seems to me. That's your insecurity about foreign experience, not mine. Don't drag me into it. I sensed that Chris felt some inferiority toward my international background, but no one else in the sales department kept their distance because of it. In fact, the other team members actively approached me, eager to learn from my experience, which only highlighted their competence. If you were as proactive as the other employees, I would have respected you as well. What did you say? The moment the manager tightened his grip on my collar, a voice rang out. What do you think you're doing? One of the executives from Funtoy burst into the room. Chris, let go of him. Do you realize who he is? He's just a rookie. A rookie. I know he's been working overseas, but he's a newcomer. As an American businessman, it's only natural for a superior to provide some educational guidance. Grabbing him by the collar, that's your idea of guidance. For your information, he's the president's son and the next CEO. The manager's grip loosened, and I took the opportunity to shake off his hand and straighten my collar. The president's son. Steve is my mother's maiden name. My real name is Steve Miller. If I used that name, everyone would know I'm related to the president, so I chose to go by this name instead. I apologize if this came across as deceptive. I bowed my head slightly. Steve has been groomed to be the next CEO. After graduating from Oxford, he worked at overseas companies to gain experience and build connections. He has now returned to take on his role as the next CEO. The executive briefly explained my background to Chris. Once he finished, I turned to Chris with a question. Manager, you knew I had returned from overseas, but were you aware of my previous job? What previous job? After graduating from university, I worked at Avena. What did you say? I have a close colleague at the U.S. branch. I explained the situation to them and asked for the contract to be temporarily suspended. But even if you are the president's son, are you out of your mind to emotionally cancel a $5 million deal? It seemed he realized that his abusive behavior might have serious consequences, judging by the change in his expression. Still, the fact that he tried to shift the blame to me showed just how shrewd Chris could be. But such excuses wouldn't work here. I didn't cancel the deal. I simply asked them to put it on hold, since the contract was not being handled by the original person in charge. The contract will be finalized tomorrow, and Barbara will handle it. She was the one who worked on it from the start. What? That's okay with you, right, Barbara? I called out to Barbara, who was standing frozen, struggling to keep up with the unfolding situation. Yes, of course. With her response, I nodded and turned my gaze back to Chris. Do you know why I was able to work here under a different name? Chris, looking blindsided, stared up at me. I decided to explain it to him clearly and thoroughly. I told my father that before joining the executive team, I wanted to understand the day-to-day operations. In response, he asked me to investigate why the sales department had such a high turnover rate. I glanced at Chris, who was beginning to sweat profusely. He also asked me to observe whether the sales manager was handling most of the major contracts alone or if other employees were truly contributing. So I had been quietly investigating this whole time. Well, thanks to this latest incident, we now know who wasn't really doing their job. We'll be starting an internal investigation, so I ask everyone to cooperate with the interviews. I addressed the surrounding employees before turning back to Chris, who is now staring at the floor. Well, Chris, you'll be the first to be interviewed. The other executives, including my father, are waiting. Let's go. I grabbed the trembling manager by the arm and smiled. The internal investigation that followed revealed that Chris had been repeatedly hijacking contracts at the final stage, just as he had with Barbara, claiming the credit as his own. It was revealed that ever since becoming the sales manager, Chris had been using the same tactics to steal credit from his subordinates. As a result, many talented employees who couldn't tolerate his behavior had left the company. Chris harassed employees who were more capable than him, driving them to quit while favoring those who were inept but skilled at sucking up. He reportedly told these employees, "Your promotion depends on your sincerity," and expected expensive gifts like wine and meat during holidays as a sign of their loyalty. He even bragged, "That's how I got promoted to manager," indicating how habitual his behavior had become. When these employees sensed Chris's downfall, they all started revealing his actions, further exposing his lack of respect among his team. How had such blatant violations of company policies gone unnoticed for so long? Further investigation revealed that Chris had been bribing the HR manager, who was also a former college senior, with beer and women to cover up complaints from subordinates and resigning employees. The sales department employees, trapped in this situation, could do nothing but endure it until they could no longer tolerate it and eventually left, creating a vicious cycle. Losing valuable talent due to Chris's selfish actions was a serious issue. Chris's behavior eventually caught the attention of the higher-ups at Funtoy, leading to his dismissal. The HR manager, who had been complicit in his actions, was demoted to a regular employee. I'll make sure we protect the talented people who remain here, so if anything comes up, don't hesitate to tell me, I said to Barbara as I picked at my lunch. The day after that incident, Barbara successfully handled the negotiation with Avena and secured a $5 million contract. A close colleague of mine later told me that the deal was closed because Avena's representatives appreciated Barbara's sincerity and professionalism. So, Barbara, you shouldn't feel guilty about working reduced hours. In fact, you should be recognized for achieving results in less time than others. Thank you. I feel very fortunate to have my work recognized and to hear such encouraging words. Also, your perspective as a mother is invaluable for product planning, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Absolutely. Barbara, sitting next to me and eating her lunch, smiled brightly. Mr. Miller, what are your plans from here? I'll stay with the sales department for now. I haven't been here long, and there's still a lot I need to learn about the day-to-day operations. So I'll be counting on you all. I see. That's reassuring to hear. Likewise, I'm truly grateful to have someone as capable as you on the team, Barbara, I said as I took a sip of green tea from my bottle. This recent incident has spread among our competitors, and the reputation of Fun Toy has taken a bit of a hit. Moving forward, we'll need to emphasize our clean and honest approach to restore that reputation. Most importantly, we must ensure that Fun Toy is a company we can be proud of when children pick up our toys. I'm committed to making sure we achieve that. I want to continue valuing talented people like Barbara and lead us toward a brighter future. From now on, I'll be the one to grow Fun Toy into something even bigger.